high in the Colorado Rockies, where the air grows thin and the wind carries a chill older than the mountains themselves, ghost towns are a common sight. They're scattered across the landscape, silent reminders of a time when the promise of gold and silver drew thousands to these unforgiving peaks. Most of these towns are well known, their names still on old maps, their stories told in faded photographs and dusty company ledgers. But what about the ones that aren't on any map? The ones that vanished without a trace? Local folklore whispers of such a place, a town that appeared and disappeared so quickly it was never recorded. Some call it Hollow Creek, others whisper Ridge, but no name has ever been verified. The story always begins the same way: a settlement of wooden cabins, a collapsed mine, and a silence so deep it feels like pressure against your chest. One of the most common tales is about a lone hiker who stumbled upon it by accident. He was following an unmarked trail, one he'd been warned was no longer maintained. After hours of climbing, he reached a small plateau. There, several buildings stood, tilted and dark, yet strangely preserved. The first thing he noticed was the quiet. It was unnatural. No birds, no insects, not even the distant sound of falling rock. The mountains themselves seemed to be holding their breath. His curiosity got the better of him, and he stepped into the largest cabin. Inside, he found the remnants of daily life: rusted pans, a broken lantern, and a cracked mirror leaning against a wall. The dust lay in thick, perfect layers, as if no one had been inside for 100 years, yet nothing felt forgotten. The mirror, especially, unsettled him. As he gazed into its cloudy surface, he thought he saw a flicker of movement behind him, a slight shift of shadow. He spun around. The room was empty. This mirror appears in many versions of the legend. Some who claim to have found the town felt a sudden drop in temperature near it. Others say they heard a faint, metallic sound from beneath the floorboards, like a pickaxe striking stone. Of course, none of this can be proven. But in the disorienting silence of the high country, the line between imagination and reality can blur very, very easily. The mine entrance itself is always described as collapsed. The wooden support beams, the story goes, were splintered inwards, not outwards, as if something from inside had pushed its way out. Another group of hikers claimed they approached the sealed mine and felt a rush of intensely cold air drift out from the darkness. It smelled, they said, of wet stone and old metal. One of them swore he heard a low, rhythmic tapping. When they moved closer, the air went still. They didn't linger. Perhaps the most persistent part of the legend concerns the cabin nearest the mine, sometimes called the foreman's house. The first hiker said he found a small table inside with a single chair. On the table was a notebook, its pages fused together by moisture. He tried to open it, but the paper crumbled. He could only make out a single smudged word on the cover, starting with an R. Was it a name, a warning? No one knows for sure. But what happened next is what truly defines the story. When he stepped out of the cabin, the air suddenly changed. A cold, sharp breeze swept across the clearing, carrying something with it. It wasn't a word, but a sound like a whisper, too close to his ear. He froze, and just as quickly, the wind stopped. The silence returned, heavier than before. He turned to leave, but the trail was gone. The path that led him there had vanished. Every direction looked the same, a dense wall of trees and rock. He began to panic, circling the clearing, desperately retracing his steps. After what felt like an hour, he finally spotted the faint outline of the trail again. He glanced back one last time, but the town was gone. The mountain ridge looked solid and unbroken, as if nothing had ever been built there at all. Some say the town only appears at certain times, maybe when clouds settle low on the peak. Others believe it's a place that chooses who can find it. This, of course, is pure folklore, but anyone familiar with the Rockies knows how easily the landscape can trick you. Trails disappear, landslides reshape valleys, and a blanket of snow can hide almost anything. Another version involves two friends who found the town near dusk. Inside one cabin, a metal cup lay on its side. One of them nudged it with his boot. The instant it moved, they both heard a sound from the mine, 3 slow, deliberate taps. They dismissed it as falling rock, but then it came again. 3 taps, evenly spaced, measured. They ran. Skeptics would say it was just the old wood creaking or echoes from deep within the collapsed shaft. But the hikers insisted the rhythm felt intentional, too steady to be random. One final chilling account comes from a traveler who dared to camp near the site. He claims he was woken in the middle of the night by the sound of footsteps circling his tent. They weren't heavy, but slow and dragging, as if made by someone struggling over the unfamiliar ground. The footsteps made one slow loop and then stopped. He lay there, holding his breath, listening to the crushing silence. At dawn, he looked outside. There were no footprints, only strange marks in the dirt, like something had been dragged away. The mountains invite this kind of speculation. Their vast, empty spaces are a perfect canvas for our fears. Shadows seem to move on their own, and every cracking branch sounds like a footstep. The abandoned mining towns of Colorado are real. You can visit them, walk through their empty buildings, and read their documented histories. But the stories of the towns that aren't on any map are the ones swallowed by the wilderness, where the past never really left, those persist. Maybe the truth is simply that some places hold on to echoes longer than others.